Gotten the results and your hands are going to be sore. So, also, you're going to like this one. There's an open bar for all of you right around the corner. So you can give that a round of applause. So, of course, we're here for results from today's races. But before we do that, we have a very, very exciting special moment. And if you can see up here, this is a beautiful boat. And this boat is a 1933 frostbite dinghy, and you're going to hear more about it from people who know a lot more about it than me, including someone who actually sailed it when he was 11 years old. And he's still kicking. So I'm going, and then at the end of those remarks, the commodores of the three yacht clubs here today, and that is the Essex Yacht Club, the Essex Caribbean Yacht Club, and of course the Frostbite Yacht Club, are going to present this team to the Connecticut River Museum for the first frostbite exhibit ever to be erected at that museum.
Woohoo!
Now, none of that would have been possible without the generosity of someone we all know. A renowned, yet humble, experienced naval architect. Yes, what's the name? Mark Ellis. So what we'll do now, at this point, I'm going to turn the mic over to Bill Robinson. Bill has put together a lot of research on frostbite. He gives a 90-minute talk. He's never one short for words. And it was really good because it was about frostbite, and for once it wasn't about Bill. And so he's going to talk a little bit about frostbite and its history and how it started over there at the River Museum building, then moved to this building, and then over to Essex Yacht Club, and now it seems to be spread out amongst us all. So, William.
Yay, Bill.
How's everybody doing? So, I'm on the clock here. As Chris mentioned, I've given this talk a few times. It runs about an hour, 90 minutes, so I'm going to condense this into 5 minutes.
Woohoo!
Okay? So you're not going to hear about the International 14s, you're not going to hear about, Eddie Byrd sailing in the 70s and 80s, and all the rest. You're going to hear about the first 5 years of frostbite, and it's a fascinating history. So we're all familiar with Essex as a famous port of call, dating back to the 19th and 18th century as a shipbuilding hub, the burning of the fleet. But back in the early 20th century, the harbor was not lined with all the yacht clubs that you see today. And that all changed when frostbite racing was introduced to the area in 1933. So, as the story goes, on New Year's Eve 1932, at the Knickerbocker Yacht Club down in Manhasset Bay, a group of individuals were having an argument over some cocktails about whose yacht tender was the fastest, whether that was the Dyer Dow or the Pram. And so a regatta was proposed, and on January 2nd, 1932, they had a race down in Manhasset Bay. And it caught on like wildfire, and for the rest of the winter of 1932, down at the western end of the Sound, frostbite racing flourished. And so a gentleman by the name of Walter Rowe, who we all know as basically, Pedopog, EYC, one of the legends of Essex sailing, was New York City based and friends with all these folks down here, and he had cruised to Essex on his cruising boat and said, what a great place for small boat racing. And so he proposed a regatta, which took place March 4th and 5th, 1933, right out here, and I think there was over 20 or 30 boats, and Hobart Ford, who was the Commodore of the Cruising Club of America, brought a commercial boat carrying over a dozen dinghies, A and B dinghies, just like this, I think including this one. And they had the regatta here, and it went like gangbusters. And so 3 months later, on June 17th, 1933, Walter Rowe decided they found Essex Yacht Club as the permanent home of frostbite racing in the Connecticut River. And they did that right over there at the Connecticut River Museum. So for the next 2 or 3 years, small boat racing, frostbite racing flourished. They would have regattas of 40, 50, 60 boats, and they soon outgrew the River Museum and decided to erect their own clubhouse, which is where we are tonight, here at Essex Corinthian Yacht Club. But Essex Yacht Club, this was their home from 1936 through 1980. And so, when you think about all the races that took place after that here, again, this was the place to go for small boat racing, for frostbite racing. And they would race X dinghies out of here, and then the International 14s came. And I'm not going to get into the rest of that because I'm at time. But I'll end with this. If we think of the New York Yacht Club as sort of synonymous with the America's Cup, we need to think of Essex Yacht Club, Essex Corinthian, the River Museum, the Dauntless Club. This is the home of frostbite racing in this area. We should all be proud of it. And it's my pleasure to introduce Mark Ellis to make the formal gift of this boat to the Connecticut River Museum. Thank you.
Say hi, Avery. Babies are here. Hi, Rye.
Thanks, Bill.
Sorry, I'm Facebook Living.
First paragraph, but I'm not here.
All right, I'm going to go up here for Mark because I feel like I'm not going to be able to hear him well.
I had to carry on from where Bill was. I had the privilege of growing up summers in the Thousand Islands, and our next door neighbor had this and had brought this boat and her sister ship. This is Jetsam, her sister ship Flotsam, to the St. Lawrence in the late 1930s. And when I was 11 in 1956, some time ago, he said to me, "If you'll look after the boat for the summer, you can have it for the summer." So this was the first boat I had to sail on my own, and I learned a lot about sailing, boat handling, etc. And then took it back to Niagara Island to Uncle Shum, and they put it back in the boathouse, and I never saw the boat in the water again. So this is 1956, some time ago. And the owner down, Mr. Pratt, passed on in 1964 and left the boat to his caretaker, who was a mentor of mine, Walter Palaw. And Walter put the boat in his boathouse, didn't sail it. He actually restored the boat to some degree. And then he died in 2002 and left the boat to me. And by that time, I was unable to sail a small boat of that type, and I didn't want it down, and it stayed in his boathouse. And his son brought it down the back of his pickup about 8 years ago. And I sort of put the pieces together and said, I think this is an early frostbite dinghy. So I called him in, I called Dyer Jones. Dyer Jones, the Anchorage, built the Dyer Dinks and built early frostbite boats. And I said, "Dyer, do you have any background on this boat?" And so he sent me a page from the 1933 North American Dinghy Association handbook, and there was Flotsam and Jetsam. And they were designed by a man named Charles Mower, and they were built at the west end of the Sound. The yard no longer exists. In any event, so I then said, well, that boat might have been here. And so I found out that the races were here. I found out that Hobart Ford, Commodore of the CCA, club I belonged to, had brought the boats up on Mother Goose, a vessel he had. And that there's a picture there of Mother Goose with her CCA Burgee flying at the steamboat dock, and there was a picture of the A and B boats racing, and people in overcoats and fedoras and cloches, spectators watching the first frostbite racing, in which I believe this boat was. So it's a great pleasure for me to present the boat to the museum. That's going to make a permanent exhibit inside of the boat, and I'll hand it over to the next speaker.
Woohoo! Thank you, Mark.
I started my remarks, which I didn't read because Bill had gone on with a lot of the stuff, to thank you for coming. And this is so much bigger, a piece than I'd expected because of my neighbor, Chris, who put this together and put on a flyer and the whole thing. So I'm very happy to have you all here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. At this point, if I could have Jennifer Carlson, the Executive Director of the Connecticut River Museum, come forward. And if I could have the Commodore of the Essex Yacht Club, Marilee McKinnon, Commodore of the Frostbite Yacht Club, Sue Wyeth, come forward. And they are going to present this vessel, along with myself, to the Connecticut River Museum, and as a symbolism, they're presenting parts.
Love it.
We present this to you, but I'd like to say that the Essex Yacht Club is really honored to have one of the most prestigious yacht designers in the Northern Hemisphere as a member of our club. So congratulations.
Look at the camera. Get your shot. Okay, put it in the boat. And now, Sue Wyeth, the Commodore, a very hard-working Commodore. Every week she's out there either sailing but putting together results. And she is going to present another part. These beautiful set of sails to the Connecticut River Museum.
The results are not ready yet.
Okay, Bill, you want to keep talking?
Yeah, there we go. Give the mic to Bill.
Bring Bill back.
Yes, and now, Ms. Carlson.
Hello, everyone. On behalf of the staff and the trustees of the Connecticut River Museum, I thank the Frostbite Yacht Club, the Essex Yacht Club, and the Essex Corinthian Yacht Club for hosting this wonderful celebration, and thank you all for being here tonight. We are overwhelmed with gratitude for Mark Ellis's generosity in the donation of Jetsam, a Class B frostbite dinghy typical of the type raced on the Connecticut River in the early 1930s, and as we learned from Mark, most likely Jetsam raced here in Essex in 1933. In addition to the significance of adding Jetsam to the museum's collection, we are honored that Mr. Ellis would entrust the Connecticut River Museum with such a beloved childhood treasure that was formative in his life and career. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
That being said, I got nothing. So enjoy yourselves while we wait for results. There's more food, there's certainly more alcohol, and be responsible, or you'll be calling me in the morning. And we will ring the bell when the results are ready.
Thanks, Chris.
And my number is.